When it comes to sorting your database, what that means is that you want to be able to take an organized database, as you see here, and be able to say, look, I want to sort everybody by their last name. Now when it comes to sorting by their last name, I want to make sure that Frank Burns, when I sort this column, actually sorts the whole record together. So in other words, after I sort this column here, he doesn't become Danny Burns, and it just sorts the column. I want to be able to take all his information and keep the record together when I do my sorting. And there's two ways you can sort. You can sort A to Z, which is ascending, have all the people's last names who begin with the letter A up at the top all the way down to the Z's, or descending, just the opposite, from your Z's down to your letter A's, or condescending. No, I'm kidding. So to be able to sort A to Z or Z to A, just click anywhere within the column, and there's three ways you can sort. Now again, the concern I have is, first of all, when I do my sorting, is it just going to sort this column or sort the column and keep all the records together here? Also, when I sort this column, is it going to take the label of this column and sort it, mix it down below? So instead of Monty Burns, it's now named Monty Last. Well, when it comes to building your database, there are 6 design flaws that I have that I want you to keep an eye out for. Here's what you want to keep an eye out or to avoid when designing your database. I call them the database design flaws that Excel is going to have trouble filtering and or sorting a poorly designed database with. First of all, you don't want to have different formatting within a column. All the data must be the same. In other words, when I go back to my database, the formatting here in my database is all the same. In fact, if I click in any one of these, if you look up at the top, it's all Arial size 10. Over here, over here, over here, you can see it's Arial size 10. So this down here has all the same formatting. In other words, I don't have here Arial, then down here Comic Sans, a different font, and then Times New Roman, then that's bold, that's italics, so over here it's of a different color. It's all the same formatting, okay? Next, mixing text and values in the same column. In other words, you don't want to be able to have in the same column have text here, then have numbers here, then have text here, then numbers here, then a range of text, range of numbers, forget it. All here in this column is text, all of it's numbers. Back to the next flaw, you don't want to put blank rows in your database. You take your chances. You got a 50-50 chance. In other words, if I come back here and I, let's say, right click on any row and I insert a whole row here, I have blank rows throughout my database. Look, these guidelines that I have, these 6 database design flaws, you may be able to actually have some inserted blank rows, or maybe you may have some mixed text, or maybe some values or different formatting. Excel will do its best to figure out that you have a database here. That's why I'm saying that instead of having Excel trying to work at it and figure it out, if you do it right the first time, you won't have to go through this and make any major errors when it comes to sorting your database and come to find out 2 weeks later after you sorted your database that Frank Burns is now Frank Hayden because it mixed everything up. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Border separation. You want to use the formatting borders button to apply a border than to actually draw one in. So when it comes here to my database, up at the top you can see I've got a border down at the bottom of this row here, row 4. How do I do that? Well, just click and drag and select it. Come up here to the font group and click on the borders button. And I want to put a thick bottom border down below. I don't want to draw the border in because if you do that, I mean, that's not going to work. Again, you can see that I have different formatting up at the top for my labels versus down below. In fact, that takes me to the next design flaw, which is column labels formatting isn't a different format than the rest of the data. If it isn't, that's a design flaw. And you can see up here that it is. Up here, it's Arial 10. Down here, it's Arial 10. The only difference between the two, well, it's 2 things. First of all, I have bold applied to all these labels up at the top, and also I have a border separating my labels from the data down below. I mean, it can be something that subtle. All of it can be the same font and the same size, just something as subtle that when you're defining your columns by labels, make sure that the labels have an extra formatting applied to it, and it's all the same. So all of this is the same formatting, all in bold, or it can be all italicized or all underlined here, versus it being different from down below, but then all my data down below is of the same formatting but being different from the labels, so it can tell the difference between the two, okay? Finally, you don't want to add spaces in your cells. Use the alignment buttons. So when it comes to my benefits here, where they have dental, medical, and so forth, I didn't come in these cells and double click and just start adding a lot of spaces. Let me hit the escape key to pull out. Instead, I selected the cells, came up here to the alignment group on the home tab, and used my alignment buttons here, okay? Put it back to middle. So if you avoid these 6 design flaws when it comes to sorting your database, and then in the next training video I'm going to show you how to filter your database, you won't run into problems. You won't have problems of mixing your data around, so you have somebody's name is mixed up with somebody else's name or their social security number, and then you got a real problem on your hands there with your database. And trying to figure out, how do I get him back to Frank Burns with his social security number and hire date and so forth. So let's go ahead and sort this. Like I said, there's one of three ways you can sort this. I want to click in the last name column, anywhere in the last name column within my database, because I want to sort by last name. And before I do it, let's make sure we keep all our records together. So focus on Frank Burns. Okay, I'm going to sort by last name. Let's see what happens after I sort if I have a database that's designed correctly that Excel can recognize and keep this record together and not give him Homer Burns or some other name or screw up his social security number and assign it to somebody else. So click in the last name column, right click, go down to sort, and let's do sort ascending A to Z. All the A's are up at the top, all the way down to the bottom, Z's for zucchini. And let's take a look at Frank Burns. Let's see if he still kept his name and his social and everything else. There he is, Frank Burns, social, everything's kept together. So my database is designed correctly. At least Excel can recognize it, keep all the records together, and just sort them by last name. You can also sort descending. Not only is it just for text, but you can do it for numbers. So over here for gross, let's say I want to find out the highest paid employee for this week. Again, I can go ahead and right click anywhere within that column and go down to sort to Z to A, from largest to smallest number. Or the other two ways you can do it is coming up here on the Home tab to the Editing group and clicking on the Sort and Filter, largest to smallest. And it looks like it was corn here, a dominant corn, got $4,800 this week. Or you can come up here on the Data tab to the Sort and Filter group and do your Z to A or A to Z. And notice when I click on that how for a brief second it just selects the whole database. It flashes because it's actually recognizing this is the database here and then actually going in and sorting according to which cell I have selected in that column. Now if I want to go back to normal, I can come over here because the list is how it was sorted originally by numbering 1 to all the way down to however many employees I have. Click in there, come up here A to Z, and I'm back to square one. And finally, I want to introduce you to what is called consecutive sorting. In other words, if I want to sort more than just one column here at a time, I want to sort everybody by last name first and then by first name. Well, I can do it one column at a time by coming up here and clicking A to Z. Okay, it sorted everybody by last name, but what if I wanted to sort them by last name and then by first name? First of all, when you do your sorting, notice that it pulls them in groups. All the A's are up at the top, that's a group. All the B's are in a group. And then not only that, but if there's duplicate last names, they're all together, aren't they? Well, I can sort it this way, saying after you go ahead and sort this column, then go ahead and sort the next column. So the most important column is going to be sorted first. To do my consecutive sorting, I can't use these A to Z or Z to A buttons. I want to come up here and click on the sort button. First of all, it remembers my recent sort, which is by last name A to Z. I'm going to go ahead and add another level and then say, after you sort first, the most important sort by last name, then, the operative word being then go ahead and go to the column here that's labeled first. And that's why it's important that you make your database here well organized and structured, because look at that. When I click on the drop-down arrow, Excel can tell which is my column headers. It's by this row because it's of a different formatting. So it's actually pulling in the labels. This is the list, this is the first, last name, social security number, and so forth. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and select it then by first. And I don't want to do it A to Z. In fact, if you look at it right now, A to Z, after it sorts by last name, it's assuming the second sort or the next after it groups is going to be ascending also. M comes before T. Well, if I change this and say go ahead and do Z to A, T should come before M. Click OK. There we go. So consecutive sorting says, look, the most important sort is going to be at the top. Do that first. After it sorts and it gets grouped together, it goes to the next sort, and within this group of Allens, it's sorting descending by first name. T before M, Z to A. Let's take a look at a few others down here. Here we go, we have some Max Cleaners. There's a good sort. So within this group, after it sorts it, and it's got duplicates here, it goes to the next sort, which is the first name. And let's see if this makes sense. Z to A. Is V before X? Of course, but it's sorted descending, so it falls at the bottom, and X comes before V. And of course we have our Heffernans here, and D would normally come before P, but again, after it sorts and it finds duplicates, it reverts to the next sort, which is first name, and because it's descending, it's going to be P before D. And then to get back to square one, I can just come here to the first column and do A to Z. And I'm back to square one. Also keep in mind that when it comes to your consecutive sorts and so forth, you can always come up here to the Sort and Filter group, click on the Sort button, and then you can delete the levels here and get rid of them as well. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.